Hello, this is Dr. Flight. This is a video to introduce you to the world of marketing and to give a brief definition of what marketing is, the role of marketing, and the role that marketing plays in the world around us. So we ask the question, quite simply, what is marketing? Right? And so the American Marketing Association is a professional organization that is sort of the academic and also professional overseers, I guess, of what marketing is. And it's the professional organization that you can join as a student in the American Marketing Association, but also as a working professional, you can be a part of the American Marketing Association as well. They have provided and they've worked very hard in defining the role and defending and also supporting marketers. And so the American Marketing Association has defined marketing as a set of, or an activity, a set of institutions and processes for creating, capturing, communicating, and delivering and exchanging offerings that have value for customers, clients, partners, and society at large. And so there are a number of different things to think about in this definition. Now, this definition is obviously long and it's encompassing. It tries to capture a lot of different ideas all at once. And so first, you'll notice that marketing is not just one person. It's not just one function, if you will, but it can include a whole lot of processes. It can be an activity and a thing at the same time. Institutions, organizations can participate in it, but think of it as a set of activities that's done in order to create, capture, communicate, deliver, and exchange value. So when we talk about marketing, one of the things that we'll come back to a lot is this idea of value and what value is and how value is created. And that's the central role of marketers, is to create something that other people find desirable and would be willing to sacrifice something for, like money or time or effort, things like that. So the role of marketers is to create value, to capture it through pricing and sales, to communicate our value proposition and the value that's been created. So that means to tell others and to also listen from others. And also deliver, so make sure that our value that was created is in the right hands to the right people. And also facilitate exchanges. Exchanging offerings of value might be where a buyer and a seller come together. So who can receive this value? Customers, clients, other business partners, or other organizations that our organization may work with. So partners in that sense, and then society at large. Okay, so the whole idea of this first introduction to marketing is to really dance around this definition and talk a little bit about value, exchanges, how value from a marketer's perspective is created, delivered, communicated, and captured. And we'll talk about those a little bit as well. As we look more into marketing, though, there's going to be 5 core aspects or concepts that are outlined in this introduction. And we'll talk about in this video the first couple here briefly, and then we'll move on to other topics in other videos as well. So first and foremost, this first question of who does marketing and what roles do these marketing folks play? And the short answer is, well, everybody tends to have a role in some capacity in creating value in the firm. And so from that perspective, if you think of employees or people who are at various levels in the organization creating value for a customer, who's then willing to pay for that value, then everybody plays a role in marketing. More broadly, though, we can think of marketing it has happening from a business perspective. When we do business marketing and we focus on creating value for other businesses, then we call that B2B, business to business marketing. And this happens an enormous amount when one business or organization creates value for another business or organization, then that's B2B marketing or B2B transactions. Another way we think about this is when one business or an organization creates value for the end user, and we'll call that end user the customer or the consumer. Okay, so that's B, or business, to C, consumer marketing, B to C. Much of what we do in this class, we look at B2C marketing in the perspective of consumers, because a lot of business is done in that capacity. A lot of value is created for a end user or consumer, but also you and I are both consumers. So we see the world through the lens of a consumer. And so that's a good way for us to illustrate a lot of the concepts that we talk about in this class. The third component here, or the third way you can think about how marketing is done, kind of in the role between organizations or marketers, would be when one consumer markets or creates value for another consumer, C to C, customer to customer. We might also call this peer-to-peer, P2P. So think about if you create content, for instance, on an Instagram page, and you are creating content for another user, and another user looks at your content, you're really kind of creating value for a fellow user, a fellow customer, if you will. So that's another way we could do that. Or if you have if you sell something like on Facebook Marketplace or on Mercari or Etsy or somewhere where you're selling a product to another consumer, then that's a C2C environment. So a big takeaway here and a core concept, so this is one of 5 core concepts, is that the person or people or organization, the entity that is a marketing entity, is one that creates value for somebody else. And so that could be, again, a B2B kind of exchange relationship. It could be a B2C relationship or a C to C relationship. Okay, moving on. Core concept number 2, who is impacted by marketers? Well, there's a whole lot of people, and they're typically somebody we call stakeholders, not shareholders. Shareholders may be a stakeholder, but the term stakeholder is used for a very broad description of anybody who's going to be impacted by the firm or organization or the ones who are creating value. So when we create value, we impact customers, and that's probably the first thing you think of as who a stakeholder might be and who might be impacted by the value we create as marketers. Second, we create value for our business partners. And later on, we'll talk more about what we call a supply chain or a supply chain partner. But if we create a product and then we, for instance, send that product out and that product is sold at a retailer, that retailer benefits. So that's another business, right? So that's another business partner, and they benefit from the things that we do and the value that we're creating. Our employees, no question, our employees who earn a paycheck but also create the value as part of the organization, they're impacted by the value we create and what we do. The broader industry that we work in, so this would include competitors as well. So if we make a change to a product or add a product, it's going to impact sales, for instance, that our competitors will realize. And in fact, it may also create a technology that they could use or the industry could use. So when we do something new, it generally not only helps ourselves, but it also pushes an industry or our competitors to do something as well. So there's certainly impact. And then finally, society, the broader community that we live in. And this picture that we see here kind of illustrates how the marketing function can be obviously done by for-profit organizations, but it's also done by government agencies. It's done by nonprofits. Just like we saw, it could be done by individuals in a peer-to-peer environment. It can also be done, and the tactics and techniques we think of as creating value can be done by any organization. It doesn't have to be a for-profit organization, right? So for-profit organizations can do social marketing, cause marketing, but also nonprofits and government agencies and folks like that can also do marketing as well. Okay, so that's the second core concept or core aspect of marketing. Again, there are going to be 5 here that you should be aware of. The third is a concept that associates this idea with marketing as fulfilling needs and wants. So when we create value, we're creating the value that is created is realized when a customer uses it to satisfy some need or want that they recognize that they have. So this is a really, really big concept that we talk about in marketing quite a bit. So here's some definitions then, and they sort of flow a little bit. We hear this term, we say this term, needs and wants. So a customer's need can be physical or psychological. It can be something you need mentally, like a aspect of well-being, but it also could be something physical that you need, like heat, clothes, warmth, food, transportation, things like that. And again, we'll talk a lot in this term about physical needs and psychological needs and how customers make decisions based on those things. Okay, wants and benefits are two additional things. So wants related to needs is how a customer desires to satisfy a need in a specific way. Wants reflect oftentimes the way in which a customer chooses to satisfy a need. I need transportation. I want to have a car to take me from point A to point B. Now, a bus will take me from point A to point B too. A bicycle will take me from point A to point B. But I have this need, but the way I want to satisfy it reflects a want or a desire to satisfy the need that I have. Okay, so wants and needs are two different things. They're related, of course, to each other. A want is sometimes we think of as something you don't necessarily need, but you desire, you wish to have. And so think of it as a specific way we would wish to have a need resolved. Okay, benefits. Benefits is a big term that we'll use a lot. The outcomes sought by a customer, which would subsequently satisfy their needs and wants, and motives for buying behavior. So when I purchase a product, or when I have a product that I feel will satisfy the need, the benefit I receive is the satisfaction or the resolution of the need. And that's what motivates me to buy a product. So we buy benefits. Which then satisfy a need. That's typically what we do. So marketers create products and services which deliver benefits for which the customer is willing to pay. And this is like a big, just kind of summary statement. Marketers create products and services, so we create value, which deliver benefits for which the customer is willing to pay. Okay, so think of that sentence, dwell on that, kind of think about how that might work. Last term of a definition that we want to kind of think about here is something called demand. Now, demand is what we generate or create for products and services based on the desire customers have for the product. So if the customer desires the product, desires the value that we've created, then demand has been created. There's been demand created. Now in marketing and in business also, there's a data point. We sometimes measure demand and we use that as a statistic. In business and marketing, we measure demand based on people who want the product, but who can also afford the resources needed to obtain the product. Okay, so like lots of people want a fancy car like a Lamborghini, but not everybody can afford a fancy car like a Lamborghini. So if we said demand for a Lamborghini is, 20,000 units a month, that would be 20,000 people who can afford to buy the Lamborghini. There's probably a lot more people who would like to have one, but demand for the product doesn't reflect people who can't afford it. Okay, so that's a definitional thing. So just remember that as you're studying and taking your notes. Okay, so moving forward, just a kind of a visual. So some people are more visual learners. So here's a graphic to kind of help you capture this concept. And we'll start up in the upper left-hand corner where it says discover consumer needs. This will be a big basis for what we do with a customer-based kind of concept for marketing. Discover customer needs. So we need to understand what the customer needs and how that customer may best satisfy those needs. Because then we can create a product, which we do when we move over to the right where it says satisfy needs by finding the right combination of something called product, price, promotion, and place. Now, sometimes these are referred to as the 4 Ps. They're things you need to know about. And we also, though, call them the marketing mix. So if I said the marketing mix, like what's in the marketing mix, you would say product, price, promotion, and place. Now, these 4 things are things we manage and we develop and we work. And all 4 of them is how we think about value as being created. So when I say I created value today, I created a product, or I captured that value in some pricing scheme or strategy I used, or I created value by communicating it to you with some advertisements or something like that. That would be communication or promotion. And then finally, I created value by getting the product to you, delivering it to you at the time that you want it. That would be place value. So product, price, promotion, and place. They all play a role not by themselves, but together as a group of activities that we call the marketing mix. So I create this value by doing these 4 things, and it subsequently reflects itself or generates itself in goods, services, and ideas, which the customer then takes a look at. So moving down, goods, services, and ideas are the outcome of the marketing mix, which the customer then pays us money for. They go out and they buy. Now, importantly, the customer also gives us feedback during this whole process. And so information about needs is generated, which again kind of wraps us back around. If we're moving clockwise, we started at discover customer needs, we go back up to that and we start the cycle over again and over again and over again. Okay, so the cycle of developing value really kind of starts with information we get from the customer. And then migrates over to us doing something to create value, and then the customer using that value and giving us feedback again. It's an important concept that really gives marketing a bad name sometimes, but just kind of marketing does not try. The goal here is not to create value that's not needed. Nor is it the job or role to get people to buy things they don't need or want. Long-term relationships with customers, what we call long-term customer value or lifetime customer value, isn't something we obtain if people are forced to buy things they don't want, or if we create a product that nobody likes or nobody wants, nobody desires, then we haven't achieved our goal. Okay, so big misconception that some folks have, they associate marketing with this idea that you're going to create products, we're going to force people to buy products they don't want. That's totally not true. This is an old advertisement from the 1980s from the American Association of Advertising Agencies. And it's just sort of this play on this idea that, and I know it kind of makes fun a little bit of gender roles in this ad. And so basically the idea is we don't make products, we don't make value, we don't create things that people don't need or want. And it's been proven over and over and over and over again that if you want to have a customer and you want that customer to be loyal and you want that customer to come back and buy from you again, you got to give them good value. And if we try to make people buy something that's either doesn't work or doesn't satisfy a need, then that customer is not going to come back. So they're going to go to a competitor. And so that's not something that we want to do. Okay, so as we wrap this up, I'm going to wrap this up and we're going to say, what is the definition of marketing? So these are going to be, these questions are questions for you to answer, okay, based on the text, based on your notes, based on the video and all of that. These are also questions that you'd see on a test. Okay, so these could all be things you see on a test, so you should study them. Okay, what is the definition of marketing? So go back to the AMA definition. Remember that marketing is about satisfying needs and wants, and there are those definitions of needs and wants and benefits and desire, those types of things. Just remember those concepts. Okay, what are the four components of the marketing mix? Right, so you have the four P's: price, place, promotion, and product. Okay, so and think about those components. And then finally, who can do or who can perform marketing? And a big thing is go back to that definition of marketing by the AMA. That will help guide you. And everybody who creates value, anybody who creates value, has a role to play in what we broadly define as marketing. Okay. All right, so let me know if you have any questions, and good luck with this. Be sure to study the text and go from there. Thanks.